Hey everyone, this is Kenlyn, and welcome to the astrology for the week of May 26th. It's a powerful week, and the questions we're asking ourselves this week are: what are we choosing? What are we focusing on? And what is in our highest alignment? What's in our lane that we're moving toward? The gene key for this week is gene key 16, and that is about mastery. So I'm going to weave a few of those things and then do a separate video for this gene key transmission because it's worth its own focus. Speaking of focus, so here we are, the Sun, Venus, Jupiter in Gemini, totally different frequency than the energy of Taurus. So we just moved out of a full moon. And on that day of the full moon last week, we had 29 degrees, Jupiter and Venus together in Taurus. And now they were sextiling Neptune. So it was a really juicy, incredible astrological aspect that softened the blow of a completion that the full moon in Sagittarius initiated, recognized. So you may have felt like that was an intense full moon, or you may have felt it as juicy. And it really doesn't matter because we're riding a lot of emotional waves, but we're going to feel, no matter who you are, you're going to start feeling that you're getting the gold, because those benefic energies are blessing this new cycle. And we officially crossed over. The Sun was in Gemini. Now Jupiter and Venus are there. And they're forming a trine. Each of those planets, celestial bodies, will make a trine to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. So what does that mean? Pluto stands for transformation. And there's a way that the planets speaking to Pluto in that way are saying to you that you are ready, you're full on ready for your transformation. And indeed, inside of the membership, the sisters are popping, just totally popping, reporting that these events have pressurized a new self to pop through. So sometimes we think, oh God, I don't like this. And boom, a new way of being pops through. So that's what's happening. Pluto retrograde, trining the Sun, Jupiter, and Venus is giving us an upgrade. We're getting the magical gifts. And indeed, gene key 16 is the magical genius. So the highest frequency of 16 puts us in the field of receiving magical gifts. And I want a presence that 16 is skills. So we're not getting there through not doing anything or messing around. I don't know. Like, we're getting there through focused, through aim, through working on our thing, through being in our lane, through our 10,000 hours of mastery. And that 10,000 hour point came from Malcolm Gladwell and his research that mastery is really indicated or comes to fruition, or we come into mastery when we have put in 10,000 hours into something. And those 10,000 hours, if you do the math, is like 5 years of full-time work. And I know many people have just been activated in their spiritual path in 2020. Many people tell me that they were activated inside the Divine Feminine Summit, in the archetypes of the Divine Feminine in 2020. And now they're embodying that. So we're on this path of mastery. And then there's things that you've been doing all your life. Maybe you've been an acupuncturist. Maybe you've been a naturopath, maybe a therapist. You have those 10,000 hours in those areas. Maybe you've taken all kinds of certifications and worked with clients. So now is the moment of mastery. So how do we get to mastery? And if we look at what's happening in Gemini, it'll give us a clue. And that's what I said at the beginning. It's about choices. It's about what are you thinking about? What are you focusing on? So the higher octave of Gemini is choosing. It's presenting a duality. I could go in this direction or that direction. And many of us choose, oh, I'm going to go in both. And what we like to say inside of our community, a Creators Academy, and the business courses I teach is that broad is broke. And I've been accepting applications for the Goddess Convergence, which is happening in mid-June. And still I get applications of people who say, gosh, I could do everything and anything. I could do this, I could do that, I could do that. And that shows me that that's not in mastery. Because here's what happens when you're in mastery. Yes, you could do this and you could do that and you could do that. But what's your lane? What are you here to do? Now, everything is included and transcended. So we're not saying, oh, I shouldn't have done the thing. No, all of that bakes together like cinnamon and maple syrup and coconut flour to come together to become a dessert. So instead of focusing on, I do cinnamon, I do maple syrup, that's getting lost in the ingredients. The cake is what you're here to be. I hope that metaphor serves. I don't know why I'm thinking of that. Maybe I'm hungry. But the cake is, that's the through line. All those certifications are just ingredients in that bigger picture, that context. And I do a lot of training on this, and this is not that. I'm not going to train you on this, but just suffice it to say that we got to stop identifying ourselves by all the modalities that we do and start really claiming and going all in and being 100% committed to the lane that we're here to be in, to occupy, to have our mastery in. Because what happens when we do that, and this is from my own personal experience, is that the anxiety comes down, the comparison comes down, any kind of envy of other people, and oh my gosh, they're there and I'm here, I wish I were there, really goes down, because you know that I'm not here to be all things to all people. I'm just not. I'm not here to say that message. I'm not here to say that message. It's a part of my message, but I'm here to say this message. And that's mastery, when we know why we're here and what lane we're in. So what message do you need to tell yourself? What message do you need to tell yourself? What message do you need to believe that has you focus? Like, I have a message. Do you need to believe that? Or my message is something that nobody else can deliver. Like, there's ways that we have to hold that context for us, or we get lost in the noise. And Gemini is lots of noise because it's communication, it's speaking. And we're going to get lost in all of the noise. Gate 16 is called enthusiasm in the I Ching, and it's located in the throat. So we are about communication. And what we know with Gemini is that artificial intelligence, that Pluto in Aquarius, coupled with this Gemini, is just dispersing. And we have mutable air, sending it all out everywhere. It's going to be overwhelming if you don't know who you are. And so Gene Key 16 is asking you to pick your lane from inside. And we go through many births and deaths in our lane, and everything is included and transcended. Remember that from integral theory. Arthur Kessler, Ken Wilber helped us understand that worldview is actually hierarchical, and that we have a particular worldview and we outgrow it. But everything we've done goes along, not everything, because we choose that some things are not worth taking, but much of it goes along. Whatever we choose that actually has value goes with us. And even the things that don't go with us have value, because now we know what it's not. remember the story of Steve Jobs and taking a calligraphy class. Like he basically got himself off of the graduation track in school, but stayed in school and just said, I'm going to take in college, I'm just going to take whatever I want to take. I'm going to follow the beat of my drum, take whatever I want to take. And by the way, I believe he had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in his natal chart. So he was always here to bring in something new. So he took calligraphy. And if you were like his parent or, his friend or whatever, you might have said, that seems random and, not purposeful. But that calligraphy course was the thing that got him thinking about fonts. And so the Apple had all the first Macintosh had these fonts that nobody else had. Remember that Courier style, that old WordPerfect style? Because everything is included and transcended. And even if he took a course that had zero help, he would at least know that it's not that. So do you see the genius in our random paths? And that's really what Pluto in Aquarius trining the sun, your conscious awareness, Jupiter, what gets expanded in your reality, Venus, actual like personal wealth, beauty, relationships. Like Pluto's informing each of them of what needs to go and the direction that you get to go in. This is the up level. So this is actually really exciting for us. And we are actors in our play. So it's not happening to us. We have to live into these energies. And the way we live in is we choose the higher octave of Gemini rather than the lower octave, which is scattered, which is thinking all over the place, super mental. I mean, it's immutable air. It's like over here and over here and over here. And in Ayurveda, we call that being Vata deranged. So if you find yourself Vata deranged, one of the things in Ayurveda is get some oil, get some fats into your body, get some oils onto your skin, eat things that are more oily rather than like crackers or chips that are very Vata deranging things, so that we can do things in our physical body, and then we can have some mental hygiene. And that's exactly the higher octave that the Gemini frequency is inviting us into. So instead of getting overwhelmed, it's where we start to make choices. And Gemini is going to give you the choice, like this or this, chocolate, vanilla, choose. And your job is to choose. Don't be like, There's like a point of consideration. I want to be fair. There's a point where we consider, and then there's a point we call it, and we just move over and we choose. And if we wait around till I'm ready, that's part of the indifference frequency of Gene Key 16. I don't really want to be responsible for that, because I don't really know what's around the corner. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know which way to choose. We're at this point of a lot more action and movement forward. So you're going to get pressurized to move forward. So one of the ways to move forward is to choose. In the creative process, there are always opportunities to tinker with things, to revise things, because it's not perfect. Well, it's never going to be perfect. There's always a way to revise it. And yet sometimes I feel like if we revise too much, we lose something. It's almost like having an overly produced, music video where it just feels corporate and fake at some level, because authenticity is raw and vulnerable and messy. And when we have enough of that in there with the structure, so it's not like random and all all raw, all authentic, all vulnerable, but there's enough containment and structure with some of that in there. You've just hit the perfect tone. So the perfect tone is where we're going, rather than perfectionism that has us zone in on details and never get the thing done. So when I talk with creators inside the Creators Academy of the Evolving Sisters Network, we're working that point of mastery and skill, structure, and then get the thing done, right? And we all have to do that. So Gemini, let's go back to that, the mental habits. What are your mental habits? Where are your edges around making a choice, around decision making? If you find that you're a person who really hates to make decisions, then there's a couple things you can do. One is to understand more about where you're at. What's your bigger purpose? Because when you know your bigger purpose, decisions are much easier. You're making them from the top down rather than from this bottom up. I have to make this decision, but I don't know what's my overarching principle. Why would I make this decision? And that goes back to having the vision. And that goes back to having your lane, having that particular expertise and mastery, Gene Key 16. And then it's asking you to look at your speech. What are you saying out of your mouth? Because that creates your reality. And now we're not saying, oh, be Pollyanna and be positive, because that just has the frequency of the negative built right in it. But it's actually a third way that sees the negative and the positive and the truer story. You know, Byron Katie and her work, could that be true or truer? So you're looking for a context that can be true or truer. So we could say something like, so-and-so betrayed me. Okay, on one level, that could be true. But what's the deeper story? What's the higher story? Now, the higher story isn't denying that, but it might be saying, well, that person betrayed me because that's what I needed to step into my power. Do you see that? It's totally different. In fact, it's interesting when you look at the story of Christ or the story of Yogananda. He was betrayed. And then Yogananda wrote the Second Coming of Christ. That was his tome. Like, he got the download. So in some ways, like, his life work came after betrayal, because betrayal, what does it do? It brings you to your knees, and it has you reconsider, why am I doing this? And when you find that why, that's the through line. Now that's your aim. That's where you're going. That's your vision. And so you can give yourself to that purpose. And that's what Pluto retrograde in Aquarius with Gemini, these early degrees, they're saying, like, I want you to be 100% committed. Where are you ready to go all in? Sometimes we have to make a choice, like we have to make the situation so we don't have a choice. You know, so it's crystal clear, like, oh my gosh, I just did this and this and this, and now I'm, quote, stuck here. But now you have, if you're stuck there, maybe that's a great thing, because maybe you, quote, have no choice. I'm just using them in quotes because really you always have choice. You created this choice for yourself so that you would have the choiceless choice of stepping up. But you always have the choice. I'm going to give up, or I have the choice of stepping up. And we really do have choice. There's no judgment about what we choose. You know, a friend of mine the other day, I called her for advice, and I said, you know, I'm on the skinny branch with this, and I don't know, is it smart to put more investment in, or would it be smart to change it up or do everything different or close it down? And she said, you know, no one can make that choice for you. No one can tell you when it's enough. And she talked about her husband was 2 years into their business after she called it and said it was enough. And that's certainly one way to go. And then, but there's another way to go where, like, I had a client once when I was an attorney who for 10 years labored and toiled on a really incredible niche business, but it wasn't getting any traction. And he was constantly hustling for investors and all kinds of things, clients and whatever. But in 10 years' time, he stayed the course and he sold his company for millions. Now, we never know when that's going to happen, and we never know if that's going to happen. And it's just an inner choice. And there's no wrong choice. He could have given it up and pivoted to something else. But he chose to stay the course. And when you choose to stay the course and you go 100% all in, you create a context for yourself. You live into it. And that's the power of Pluto, burning away your doubt, your confusion, your lack of commitment, your scatteredness. And Pluto's saying, choose. And then be really powerful inside your choice. And I love that option because I believe that when you step into that and you choose powerfully, you'll get the data. But it takes that energy, that Shakti, to move it forward. And life will either bring you a pivot that will be crystal clear, or you'll get that traction. And also lots of other things can happen. We are really in the unknown. And that's part of what Gene Key 16 says. When you're willing to be in the unknown and keep working the paces, at some point, you become the master. And when then you become the master, and this is included and transcended, and I'm going to end here. When you become the master, then guess what? All the rules are out the window. You can now receive gnosis. You can now receive gnosis. And I love that because it's a both and. It's not saying I received gnosis and I just sat here. That can probably happen too. But this is 16 is like the pathway of being human. We get to do things. And then once we get to that level, we've got the versatility. We stepped in. We are intelligent in ways that are extraordinary, like off the not off the chart, meaning high, but off the record, like in different ways we're extraordinary that haven't been done before. That's versatility. And then true mastery is, okay, now I'm in my gifts are flowing with the universe. My skill is being used by the universe, included and transcended. And I get to this place where now the universe is like, great, I'm going to drop in something completely and utterly new that you're not even qualified to do. There's the paradox. And that's where we get to end with Gene Key 16. And you know what? We are stepping into it. I'm witnessing it inside of the membership and the women rising. And some days it doesn't look like it. And then bam, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, we just went up a level. And so I'm knowing that we're a microcosm of humanity and we're getting it. So if you're listening to this, stay the course. Stay the course. You've got this. And may all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts. I'll see you on the next video.